So I want to start with ultimately the biggest question, right? Which is like, what originally even spurred the idea to get a brand marketing campaign going? Because I think I'm sure you would agree with this, that the majority of SaaS brands are not even investing in anything like a comedy ad, brand marketing ad, or anything like that. I mean, everyone's really
Yeah.
running a lot of the same old tactics from a playbook perspective. And I think most just don't want to invest the money or the dollars into a campaign like that because it typically is a little bit more expensive on the front end. But I know
Yep.
that you guys have had
Agreed.
awesome success with even before we started working together. But I wanted to hear, like, was that something that you came up with? Was it something the CEO came up with? I mean, why even decide to do a brand marketing campaign over anything else you guys could have done?
Yeah. So it's a great question. Jared, it was actually his idea.
Is it?
Is the CEO. He's the founder and CEO of Luminous. And
Mhm.
so he kind of had the idea of creating something that was different. So we
Mhm.
were, I only came on about a year ago, and they've been now in beta. They had their core group of customers for like a long time. And we service e-commerce clients, like specifically e-com brands that are like 10 million to 50 million or 100 million.
Mhm.
So just that huge gap, but like large
Yeah.
established brands. And so we were trying to think like, how do we get their attention? What's a way to get them to notice us? Because there's so many solutions in the market, and we notice like they're
Yeah.
all incredibly boring. I see my
Right.
competitors getting me to download their white paper on Facebook all the time, and I'm like, I would never download this. But like, so we were trying to
Exactly.
think, how do we stand out? How do we be unique? And then we were thinking a lot as we were discussing, how do we kind of put our first piece of massive content, like a brand marketing piece out in the market to stand out. And we're like, well, how do e-com brands usually advertise? They advertise by being funny, different, unique. They have to constantly get attention. And so we're like, well, why don't we try to advertise the way that they advertise? The Super
Mhm.
Bowl type of commercials where it's like, oh God, talk
Mhm.
about it for months after because it was so funny, made you think or feel something. So we
All right.
wanted to advertise the way they would to get their attention in that kind of a way. And that's where we kind of came up with like, okay, let's actually go to an agency that creates ads for e-com brands. So e-com brands go to
Totally.
that and pay them a lot of money. And we were their first B2B SaaS client, actually. So
Huh. That's interesting.
that was kind of the thought behind that. Like, how do we stand out and how do we get this specific ICP's attention? And it was through an ad like that.
Right.
So
How early did you do that? What stage of the
about a year
company?
ago.
About a year
Yeah,
ago?
about a year ago. And so we recorded probably December of 2023, and then post production took a couple months, and we think launched it in about early April 2024.
Right,
So
right.
yeah.
I think it's great. I mean, I think you're totally right. I mean, ultimately, people are looking for something to be remembered from. And I think a lot of
Yep.
times you can accomplish that in some other ways, clearly. But I mean, when you do something big like a brand marketing campaign, it's just going to be different. And adding a little bit of
Yeah.
entertainment value to it is going to make a huge deal because ultimately we want to get the associations around some of the pain points, situations, or the things that your clients are experiencing, but in a memorable way where they're going to be like, oh, yeah, shit, like that brand Illuminous, I see those guys all the time on Meta, you know? And then
Exactly.
whether they're in
Yeah.
market today or another day or whatever, they're going to probably remember that more so than they would just any old, white paper gated piece of content or you name it that I think everyone wants to go down the
100%.
road on.
Yeah.
So
You kind of have to gain respect from these brands. It's such a referral heavy, like brand recognition heavy
yeah,
industry. So we're like, how do we do that? Well, the brand piece is going to have to be the first thing.
right,
So,
right.
and it worked well. It was a good bet. Big
That's
bet, but it was
cool.
a good, everyone thought we were crazy. They're like, you're spending how much on this ad? And we're like, oh God. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. We'll
yeah,
get
it
into
worked
how
out.
much you spend in a second.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
curious on the like the whole process and the planning from like A to Z. So like you start and you say,
Yeah.
okay, we want to do this, we want to be different, we want to do something that's a true comedy ad, et cetera, or something that's going to set us apart from the competition. What was the first thing you guys started doing? Was it just getting video agencies lined up and trying to interview? Did
Mhm.
you have a brief document that you put together and said, all right, here's what we generally want to say. Here's kind of some script ideas. Here's the goal and how we're going to measure the campaign. Was it that organized, or was it just kind of like, hey, let's just go talk to some people and see what they come back with?
Yeah, there's a few things. So we knew the goal of it was to be our first piece of go to market. So we knew we wanted to make a splash in the industry, and everybody knew like to kind of that could be our introductory piece of content. So
Yeah.
it meant a lot to us. And we knew the agency we were going to go with, and that was Creatively. So shout out to Creatively. They were the ones we knew we wanted to go to because we've seen their content before, and they've blown up brands with their ads, but e-com brands, right? So we knew we wanted to go to them. We knew we wanted this to be a brand piece that would be all inclusive to most of e-commerce, the majority of
Mm-hmm.
e-commerce. And so we kind of just went to them, and they're one of their founders, their head of creative, Damien. He they also own a couple of other brands. And so they understood the pain points that we were trying to solve for. So it was actually a perfect fit
Hmm.
because they understood who we were, what we were building, why it was important, and their ICP they
Yeah.
service all the time. So it was just like such a great fit where we were kind of like, this is kind
Huh.
of a no-brainer. And it was a unique fit. You know, usually people go through multiple agencies and they're local, they're just down the road too.
Right.
Um, so we kind of were just, we knew it was going to be them. We've since spoken with other agencies. We've tried
Hmm.
other ads through like a lower tier, less production heavy, less expensive agency, and you get what you pay for. So
Hmm. Hmm.
we'll talk about that later. But yeah, like we knew who we were going to go to. We knew kind of our message, but they really helped us hone in on the story, the script, and like just all of the post production that came with it. It was all them.
How about the message though? I mean, I think that, the common thing that happens is there's a whole bunch of different pain points that your audience suffers
Yeah.
from, but there's some that are obviously bigger than others, right? Not all of them are
Yeah.
felt the same way. And so I bet you that the sales team would say that 9 times out of 10, like customers come to Luminous for this top thing. And so
Yep.
ultimately, were you kind of taking that into consideration when you were building messaging around the campaign and saying like, hey guys, we need to really have
Yeah.
skits around this type of pain point because we know that like literally they mention it all the time on sales calls. And it's the number
Yeah.
one requested feature, the number one requested capability that they want in the product. Was that the case or no?
Very similar. It was more or less that. It was we thought of like who is this person that is feeling all of this pain and what is their journey going through that process where they start to feel those pain points, and how can we identify ourselves as like, hey, we understand what you're going through, because Jared
Yeah.
was his first own client. You know, he built the product for the company he was running at the time.
Right.
And so the story essentially was like a little girl at the lemonade stand, Lila, and she started building this lemonade stand because she was having fun and making a little bit of extra money, and then it just blew up and became insanely complicated. And like
Right.
she never wanted to be a manager of supply chain and back end ops. She just wanted to sell lemonade. Like she just wanted to have fun doing what she was passionate about, right? And so the whole story is like following her through this journey of her being just like overwhelmed with all these 3PLs and Amazon and Shopify, and just like, this is not what I
Right.
signed up for. Okay, here we go. Here's Luminous. And majority of the time, e-com brands go through that journey. And so we kind of like created that story and that brand narrative, the narrative around Lila. And then so many people who watch it were like, that's me. Like, so it was directed towards the founder, like in this
Mm.
specific brand piece. So they could know that we understand the journey that they go through, and they watch us from start to finish. And they're like, oh my gosh, I relate to it. Okay, I'll talk to Luminous and see if they can help me. So that's kind of the journey that I went through. So it was intentional, and it also meant to just be engaging and fun to watch and relatable more than anything to our ideal customer. So.
Right, right. Was it
Yeah.
difficult figuring out actors and whatnot for that? I mean, was there a whole lot of
We did
process
all the
going back and
casting.
forth?
Yeah, we helped them choose. They sent us a bunch of different options. So they sent us a couple
Mhm.
Lilas, a couple of different, like the host, or Tito. He was the funniest narrator
He
ever.
was great. Yeah,
Oh
he's
my
awesome.
God. We were like, can we just have him for every ad? So it was like the consistency.
I
You know,
know. Well,
some
you're getting him
companies do
again,
that.
right? Like the second ad, like Tito's going to be in there.
Not for this one,
You're not?
sadly.
Oh, I thought he was.
No,
I thought he
you're
was.
gonna love the next one. It's Lord of the Rings parody, so that'll be
Oh,
something.
fun. Fun thing.
Yeah, but I wish we could maybe down the road. But so
Yeah.
he was great. We had a couple options for him, and there's a couple other key characters in there that like we were able to choose from. So they would give
Yeah.
us like 2 or 3 options, and we chose the best one that would fit for that specific character.
What did that look like? What did they give you? Just like them reading off a script and saying like,
Yeah,
in character,
exactly.
here's some stuff
A
about Lewis. You're like,
video.
I kind of feel the vibe. Like, is that how it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like a Google. We got like a essentially a deck, and then it would be like, here's this character and here's like 3 people that we think are going to be a great fit. And so we would watch them. They would send us a recording of the script, like 30 seconds to a minute of them recording as that character, of the actor doing it, and then we'd be like, oh, this one feels the best. And so we
Hmm.
chose them based on that vibe. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think kind of getting the tone right and making sure that delivery is good, I think is difficult to some level. But I guess he's trying to trust your gut on it, and you say like, like this guy seems
Exactly.
good, it's fun, it's entertaining, he seems normal, he's not too awkward, like they're gonna be fine.
He's goofy
So
enough. He fits the vibe enough. And then, because the agency has filtered out probably 50 plus actors that wanted it, they give us the best of what they think. So we go
right,
off of their gut feel, and then we finalize it by, okay, this is the one.
right.
Yeah.
What about scripts then? I mean, ultimately, I think you guys had how many videos came out of the first production round? I forget. Was this
So
5?
that one was a full 2.5 minute ad. That was full production piece, and then they
And
chopped
they
it up
clipped
into a
it up.
60-second version, 30-second, and 15-second, and then also included 5 explainer videos, which is really nice. So
Right.
we had multiple explainers that we use on our ads, like how much does Luminous cost? How do I know if Luminous is a good fit? Like how is Luminous different than other people? Like it just other
Right.
competitors. So they gave us 5 explainers. So it was an all-in-one package
Hmm.
that included all of that. So that was great.
Huh, that's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know some people take the approach of like 5 individual skits, right? So like each
Mm-hmm.
skit is maybe focused on kind of rolls up to a core theme, but they might have a different pain point for each skit. Following the same types of actors, right? In different situations
Yeah.
they're going through. I know Hockey Stack's actually going through some things doing this exact thing around the whole credit
Oh,
game. So they're like sales versus marketing, arguing over who actually won the deal or not or who sourced it. And so
yeah.
that's just one skit, though, of a couple of different situations that marketers and salespeople commonly find themselves in. So it's interesting
Very
you guys
common.
decided to go down the route where it's like a full issue, like production element, just kind of clipped up, which makes sense. That keeps it easier too on the back end, I'm sure, from a
Oh
production
yeah.
perspective versus keeping new sets and new actors and new props and all that other stuff.
We might do that in the future. I've chatted with agencies that, record a bunch of things all in one day and then they just cut it up for you. But this was meant to be just like a story piece, like
Yeah.
there's all in one fun ad to watch and engage, something shareable.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, so that worked out for us. And then we were able to test the different formats, different lengths of that, like the 60, the 30, the 15, and the full 2 minutes across
Right.
and see if people clicked on and reacted with better, which was the 30-second one, I would say is
Right.
by far the best in terms of getting demos. So
That's very cool. How about the script process? How was that? I mean, I'm sure that they led a lot of
yeah,
that, but how involved were you guys there? Did you guys have some ideas on what you wanted to say? Were there ever any conflicts of like, no, 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 like you guys are ruining the ad, like don't change the copy here, like this is exactly the way it needs to be. We do this all the time, or how much were you guys involved in the whole process from a script writing perspective?
this is actually one of the key differentiators from other agencies, and why we went back to them recently again was we actually did a whole day together, it was a writing retreat is what they called it. So we get in there in
Hmm.
the morning to their offices in Orem, and so they've got coffee and bagels, and we just like shoot the shit. I don't know if I'm supposed to first, but we just talk. We have ideas, and they pitch us on a bunch of. We talk about like who the ad is for,
Yeah.
and then we just the whole day we're discussing different ideas, throwing things out there, and that lasts nearly probably about till 2, 3 in the afternoon.
Huh.
And then about
Interesting.
2 weeks later, we come back. And they actually pitch us on like 5 different scripts and 5 different ideas. So we got back
Mm.
a couple of weeks ago, and the writing retreat was like beginning of January, the end of January, we came again. And they gave us 5 different scripts, 5 completely different ideas, different characters, different everything. And they read all of them out for us. And
Mm.
then we chose 2. And so, like, from
Right.
there, once we chose those 2, then they send us the text, like the actual script itself, and then we go through it. We were just literally before this call finalizing a couple of the product pitches in there. So they're
Well,
super
nice.
collaborative. They make sure that like they know exactly who we're writing this for. They pitch us on multiple ideas. With other agencies I worked with were like, here's your script, and like that was it. Like you're kind of like, I
Right.
kind of want a more collaborative process, like just to make sure like
Right.
exactly who this ad is for, especially when you're spending so much money. They're great
Yeah.
in the terms of like we had 2 full days of going back and forth, going through multiple scripts, deciding on something all together, and then we let them do what they do best, which is the recording and everything else.
You mentioned it again, but how much did you guys spend on the first production round?
So the first ad we did with them about 230,000.
230. How did you, I
Yeah,
mean, it sounds like, I mean, your CEO was like in on this from day one, but
yeah.
most
Everyone thought
CEO,
he
most CEOs are
no,
probably not the way he is. I mean,
not of a seed stage startup that has
no,
barely hit a
no.
million. Yeah, no,
I mean,
that
what
was
would
it
you
was a
say, like
huge
you're
bet.
VP, yeah, you're head of marketing. So I mean, what would you say though?
Mhm.
Because I think like you're in a really lucky position at Luminous where you
Yeah,
guys have great brand, great content, CEO that just gets it right from day
yeah,
one. I
yeah,
think everyone's always in the position of ultimately, how do I get budget approval or how would I ever even convince my CEO who maybe is a non-marketer, doesn't really get it, isn't part of that whole thing, doesn't understand brand
yeah,
marketing, is just more of a probably coming from a sales background, possibly. What would you say to
yeah,
them? And what would be something that would kind of help a marketer get through the hurdle of getting something like that approved? Maybe not even at that scale, right? I mean, they could do
yeah,
something clearly cheaper than that,
yeah.
not do
Oh,
something as
100%.
high production. But how would you approach that?
Um, I would say start with creating content in-house, like what we were doing. So we were doing all of this for a good year, creating, posting, at a podcast, at a bunch of things. Start creating a brand early to kind of see how the brand recognition grows over time and then throw their brand piece on top of it.
Yeah,
So I
totally.
think something a lot of marketers don't do, especially in B2B, we think, okay, cool, there's no brand, no nothing. You have a landing page and a couple, blogs or whatever. And we just throw money in PPC and hope for the best.
Right.
Brand and B2B is becoming more and more important now than ever. So I think if you start growing that brand presence, if your CEO starts posting on socials and creating a personal brand around himself, and you guys start getting that recognition from the industry as like, we're creating content, we're putting things out there, I think it'll be easier and easier for them to understand that then spending a good amount of money on a large brand piece will make sense, because you've got this entire like ecosystem of content and you've got like a small brand there already. If that makes sense, like
Yeah.
it's something good to place on top of. Creatively has run ads or created ads for other B2B companies since, and they flopped. And we were all trying to figure out what was it about us that was different, that made this ad a success. I mean, we paid that ad off within a couple of months, which we
Right.
weren't even expecting that. But it wasn't because the ad was so good. It was because literally for the last year, we created a brand that was different, that was unique. We were putting content out
Right.
there every day, no matter how much it
Yeah.
sucked. We just kind of kept building that muscle of like, let's put a podcast out, have 15 clips from that. Let's have Jared get in and go into the studio and record, the entire journey of our ICP and why they get so complex and why Luminous is that solution. We had video content everywhere, all across our website, all across our socials. So then when we were ready for that big brand piece, when they see that piece and they click through, they go onto our website, which is already optimized with more content for them, and then they
Yep.
convert. And that's why our ads convert so well. It's not really the ad plays a huge piece, but it's purely awareness. And you need to have a really solid foundation of everything else for it all to work well together and be profitable. So that's how
I
I would pitch it.
Yeah.
No.
I love this point. I think it's such a good one. I mean, these things
Yeah.
support each other is the bottom line, right? And I think also
Yes.
too, what you did is you de-risked a lot of things. I mean, number one, like Jared like came from this space and everything, but you
Oh yeah.
de-risked it
Great
with all the
story.
content that was already getting out there into the world. So you were getting feedback loops constantly over the content that you
Yep.
guys were putting out there, whether it be podcast, organic post, you name it. And so
Yep.
then you could take that feedback and also internally that you're getting from your customers and then use that all as, ammo once you actually got to production to say, hey, cool, like we already know that these things resonate. We already know these are the top pain points. We know this is the same freaking journey that every
Yeah.
e-com brand goes down. And so we know we just need to lock into that story and
Yeah.
position Luminous as the potential solution to that. And I think like that's
Yep.
what so many brands need to do. I mean, it's a difficult one too, to say
It
just
is.
like go build a founder brand and go start posting, because I think even a lot of people have difficulty there as well. But it also doesn't need to always be the CEO or the founder. And I
Yeah.
think that's where some people get locked into this idea it has to be whoever's the leader of the company, right? I mean, you could have an SME that's just really deeply ingrained in everything that's going on with the business, because not every CEO is going to be the SME. And so I think in those situations, you have to promote someone up to be more of the voice, the face of the company that's going to have the bigger connection with your audience, and then can do all those conversations back and forth, be in the comments, be in the DMs, and doing all those things so they can get feedback.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, build a person, like choose personalities in your company, let them start putting content out there. It does not have to be the CEO, but it helps because they usually have a very convicting story and journey as to why they started the company. Very rarely are you going to find the head of sales that can match the enthusiasm of the founder who has spent years probably building this from nothing when everyone thought he was crazy. There's usually a story there, and like you can kind of push them into it. But also, if you've got a really charismatic head of sales or marketing or head of partnerships, let them do content. We're getting our head of product right now to start doing product drops and product breakdowns, because he's awesome, and we're like, he'll be great on camera, and we need someone besides Jared putting stuff out there, right? It just put a face to it, start creating content, optimize your website, and then invest in that brand piece, because purely it's going to be awareness, and it's only going to do good for your brand if you've got that whole ecosystem of content under it.
Yeah, well,
Hope that helps a marketer, but don't do it as just like your first thing out the gate. Like, let's do a brand piece. Like, we just got funded and you have nothing else. It might flop. High chance it will flop, and you'll probably catch the brunt for it. So like, spend a good year slowly building something. And when you feel ready, that's when you drop it.
I think it's hard not to talk about the thing that we always struggle with. And I think every marketer's in this position where you've got short-term goals that you have to hit right now, right?
Exactly.
And, brand marketing campaigns or comedy ads, generally speaking, are more of a long-term play. Although you guys have had amazing success in a very short time frame, and there's some clear reasons why that makes sense. But what would you say in those situations? I mean, I think there's that balance to your point when maybe you don't want to necessarily invest in a big brand marketing campaign. You know what? You just need to kind of play the game of hitting some of those short-term goals first, and then taking a bigger swing at something later? I mean, do you feel like that's really what should happen, or do you feel like these things kind of overlap so much so in the way that you guys did it? Because you said the first couple of months, right? 2 or 3 months, you guys paid it off roughly.
Yeah, roughly.
So it was very quick. It
I
wasn't like a
it
long
was
time.
yeah. Well, because we charge by like ARR, right? So it all kind of came back. We had to close
Right, right.
a handful of deals, and it paid itself off.
Sure.
But and also it helps that we have a large contract, like annual contract value size. So that was
Yeah.
also beneficial for us. Um, I would say, yeah, you want to think short term and long term. Short term things, you could hire a couple SDRs to start cold calling, going to trade shows, and they'll get your results quicker. And you get that feedback loop of, and then your CEO is probably out there selling as well. You've got partnerships, you've got referrals, and you can try some basic PPC if you feel like your website's ready for conversion. So that's all stuff you
Right.
can start getting results within the first 3 months or so. But then the long term, up to 1 year, at that same time, I would say start creating that organic content, start putting stuff on YouTube, on social media,
Mhm.
on your website. Every video that we do right now. We create it into a blog. We use AI to turn it into a blog, and then the video on top, and it's also on
Huh.
YouTube. And our
Yeah.
SEO has actually skyrocketed. The other day we ranked #1 for e-commerce inventory software. We haven't written an
Oh
actual
yeah.
blog for the sake of a blog in like 2 years, but
Right.
we've been posting all of our videos. We transcribe them, we put them on our website, and they start getting results for us over time. So
Right.
like we do all those things. You think short term, okay, we need immediate results. I would say that's the SDR route, that's the PPC route, trade shows, all that stuff everyone's doing. And then they
Yeah.
kind of stay there. They don't really do anything else because it's like, oh, it's working. But I think in the meantime, start working on that long, start doing the organic content, building the
I think you
brand, and then
have
that
to.
brand piece within a year.
Yeah.
And then all that compounds really well together if you do it right.
I think that's the thing. It's not like a, this or that. It's always a let's do them together, right? There's nothing stopping you from creating content on LinkedIn now or whatever channel that your
No.
audience spends time on. There's nothing stopping you from doing some of these other activities. You don't need to necessarily have a huge budget for really many of these things to create even just a little bit of
Yeah.
content. And so, to your point, you could have the PPC stuff and the cold emails and all the other things that are happening as you're kind of working on the side of building that brand. And to your point, you guys spent a lot of time doing that in the beginning before you even spent the money that you did
Yes.
on this big brand
Yep.
marketing campaign, which again de-risked it a ton, which I love. So I'm
I'd say
curious.
the founder brand on LinkedIn, like that's such a huge topic. I'd say it's
Yeah,
a mix of short term and long term because you can start getting results really quickly. We used to do
right.
outbound for Jared through his LinkedIn. We'd book 3 to 4 demos a week, easy.
Crazy.
Through just doing automated outbound and sending requests to his ICP on LinkedIn.
Huh.
I would actually go into his account and just DM like supply chain ecom managers, and
Yeah,
we'd book stuff because he was also posting. That's pretty short term, but then also it's built
right.
his long term brand in the industry too. Anyway, sorry to interrupt that, but that's
Totally,
that's also a
totally.
strategy.
I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, did you guys before with the brand campaign, once you guys actually built it, before you even decided to spend the money on it, were you already thinking about how you wanted to distribute it? I mean, to get into that a little bit more. I mean, you were kind of mentioning some stuff around like blog, and then we clearly know what you've done on the meta side, but just to like adding other context to that. I mean, what was the plan? Like, okay, cool, we're gonna spend $230,000. We're gonna allocate X amount of budget to ultimately put paid dollars behind it to get in front of as many eyeballs as possible. And then in terms of channels and all that, like, how did you guys make those initial decisions before you
Yeah, so we
launched?
put it on our homepage, but we knew it was going to be a paid ad piece. Like the awareness is going to be funneled through the paid media, and the
Yeah.
agency creatively they make paid ads. So like that's what they specialize in.
Right.
So that they create it with a hook, and they do testing before they even hand it over to make sure that the user will get through an X amount of that ad before clicking or before jumping off. And if they don't, then the ad's not successful in their eyes, and they keep iterating until they've got that. I forgot what the term was, is like the drop off or something.
Yeah.
So I think it's like meant to be like 15
Yeah.
to 20 seconds, which is so much longer than the majority of the ads out there.
Right.
And so we knew it was optimized for paid media, and it was going to live across our socials and our homepage just as an evergreen piece until we're ready for our
Mhm.
next brand piece. But it was for paid ads, and that's where it brings the most clicks and ultimately demos.
Yeah, yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do, obviously, with how you promote this type of thing. We've been actually
Yeah.
talking about doing our own brand campaigns too, and I mean, one thing is like
Nice.
clearly you've got the paid aspect. I mean, just even organically, like talking about how you did it, how you put together the asset, et cetera. I mean, for marketers and all sorts of other people like that would be incredibly interesting, just to kind of walk through the process. Because then at the same time, of course, you're promoting the ad itself. People are seeing it and seeing how you've done it behind the scenes. So it's more just kind of the transparent, like, hey, this is how we did it. This is what the
Yeah.
steps we went through, so on and so forth, kind of
Good
like we're doing
idea.
right now. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I need a. That's one of my things I'll be following. We're recording our next one at the end. Actually, no, March 6th. So That's a
Yeah.
great idea. I need to follow the process and the journey. I think something else is building in-house content studios. A lot of people ask about that. Like, how do you get a sign off from your CEO? How do you build something
Right.
in-house for content? But like, yeah,
Exactly.
I agree. I think that I'll make a note of that to record the process so we can put something out there after.
Yeah, totally. I'm curious about one other thing too. So in terms of
Yeah.
measurement, I mean, clearly like
Yeah.
there's the common stuff, right? When you launch the
Yeah.
campaign, you distribute it out there. I mean, I think everyone wants to look at the typical stuff, right? How many conversions, how much pipeline did we get? Did you guys ever look at any other metrics that are more like brand specific metrics, or was it always very just kind of bottom of the funnel direct response? What I mean by that are like
Yeah.
share of voice or just the amount of traffic or people mentioning your brand name on social channels, like other things that are happening there through like Brand 24. Are there
Yeah.
platforms like that, or was that not as much a focus? You guys say, you know what, we're just going to kind of use the good old fashioned in-channel metrics inside Meta, LinkedIn, you name it.
Been yeah, it's been mostly how many demos was booked, how much has
Yeah,
closed for me. Like it's I think as we grow and as we get bigger, that stuff will matter a lot more and I will be able to get more granular. But I just hired my first person on my team, but I was a one person marketer. So I was like, my end goal is just to drive revenue. Like that's all we care about right now. And then I think
right.
more as we have more revenue, we grow our team and we grow our brand in the industry. I'm super open to more metrics alongside that. But for the last year, I was like, how can we prove this by demos and qualified demos to revenue? And that's really the only metric that mattered at the time, um,
Yeah.
and
I
still
mean,
does, I would say, and probably will still. But yeah,
oh, it'll always matter, right? It's always going to be the bottom line metric that everyone cares about at the end of the day. I mean, the thing about it though
yeah,
is that a lot of times, like content, like good content, the byproduct of that is demos and all those things. And so sometimes when you look at things in a vacuum and say, all right, well, how much did our blog produce last month, or how much did that organic post produce in terms of revenue? It kind of gets too granular at some level, and so sometimes you just need to zoom out a little bit and say, well, wait a minute, like we know the demos are up, we know that people are mentioning Jared and or other people at the
yeah,
company that are actually posting. Like we know it's generally working. We don't need to identify the exact one post that did it, right? We just need to know
yeah,
that, hey, we need to do more of this and we need to get the
yes,
message out there. And I think the thing that's also still interesting about this, just to say it again, is that, you know, while it would fall into the category of more of a brand marketing campaign, which would typically be like long term, need to look at share of voice and traffic and some of those like longer term indicators. Like you guys had results pretty quickly off the bat. Now, again, some of that probably done from some of the
it's a
founder
ramp up.
led growth, right? There was some
Yeah,
ramp up, there's some awareness. So I mean, clearly, like if you have some of those things, those should be in place before you're even spending anywhere to that much amount of money. But the point is that you don't necessarily need to wait for these things to happen like 3, 6, 9 months because, you know, in channel, as you know all too well, in Meta or LinkedIn, you're going to be hitting people that are in market looking for something that you do anyway. And so the
yeah,
majority of the market's not in market. They're not, you know, they're not actually thinking about Luminous. They're not
exactly.
going to be receptive to the advertising. You're still going to hit people that obviously are, which is why you can look at
Yeah,
some of those metrics in the short term versus thinking about this, oh, well, you know, we're going to do this brand marketing campaign and we just need to be patient, you know, just keep
hmm,
waiting and waiting and waiting. And like, that's not a message that any CEO or anyone wants to hear. Like you can't deliver that to them. And so I think it's really interesting that that campaign not only drove short-term impact, but also of course, now you guys have had it running for how long? I mean, like 9 months,
gosh,
something
nine
like that.
months, yeah. And it's still
Easy.
bringing in great results. So like we're super happy with it. And we're hoping it's going to run for a couple of years, like at least 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's our goal. I mean, Creatively, who they also target ecom brands. They've been
Yeah.
running the same ad now for a couple of years, and they spend over $1,000 a day on that ad.
Wow.
So a little
Yeah.
over 30K a month, and I think their head of sales posted on LinkedIn yesterday. Their schedules are booked. They've got SDRs
Wow.
purely sitting on 15 to 30-minute demos all day long, completely booked out, just qualifying leads and pushing them into the AEs. So it's like,
Jeez.
and they have a 10x. I mean, they're selling $300,000 ads, right? So it's like there's a huge qualification process involved, but
Right.
like
Right.
they're using the same ad. It's hilarious. It's so funny. I should send it to you.
Yeah.
And it's like it's bringing in demos every single day. I don't know what magic or like voodoo they're putting into their comments to get people to act that fast because I was equally surprised. I was like, probably
Yeah.
gonna get a bunch of clicks. Then when they're ready, they'll come through. But it's like within six weeks we started seeing multiple demos a day being
Right.
booked, the 30-second version, and it was like, wow, all right,
Yeah, it
we're
makes
getting
sense. Well,
somewhere.
even if they're not like ready to go right then and there, they're
They
you're
still want
peaking.
to talk. Yeah.
Yeah, they still want to talk. They're like, who are these guys? All right, I just got to at least like put them in my radar because maybe they're in an annual contract or something like
Yes.
that. But I bet you a lot of them are coming back around. So if
Oh
you look in
yeah.
your CRM, you're seeing some that have a conversation. Hey, cool, love you guys. See your ads all over the place. Blah blah blah. Love Tito.
That's
He's
yeah.
hilarious. And then
Yeah.
okay, cool. As soon as our contract's up and we can get out of it, like we're gonna come over to Lumen.
Exactly. Please get us off of
Yeah,
NetSuite immediately. Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
the conversations we're having.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the next campaign. We got to talk about that. because it's
Oh yeah.
brand new and fresh. What can you share from that? What's coming up?
So there's two. The first
Yeah,
one's going to be like a Lord of the Rings parody type of thing. So I'm not huge on Lord of the Rings, unfortunately, but I know that
yeah.
there's Sauron, and is he the wizard? There's the wizard, and then there's the guy with the horns, and then there's a couple of the God, what I'm
Well, I know
literally
Frodo. I know
they will
Frodo's
kill
in
me.
there.
One of the hunched over.
There's Gandalf. There's Frodo. There's
There's Gandalf's in there. Okay, so there's a bunch of the core wizard,
yeah,
Lord of the Rings characters. So
yeah.
bad. I've watched it like 7 times. But like I always fall asleep. I'm literally the worst.
A
But
long
it's
one.
going to be around them, and basically they are arguing about inventory management and why is it so complicated? And Luminous is the one source that rules them all. It's ridiculous, but it's so
That's
funny. Like
funny.
when they first pitched us the idea, we were kind of like, this is bizarre. And then they read out the script. By the time they were done with the script, I like looked
Mhm.
over and I was like, this is brilliant. This is going to be so funny. And not only that, but it's really going to hit like our key person we're targeting in this ad, which is like operators who are probably going to be guys from like 25 to 40. They're
Yeah.
95% huge Lord of the Rings fans. So I think they're really going to resonate
Yeah.
and find it funny and then actually relate to it. So we're like, oh, this is
Huh.
like the perfect setup.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
second ad that we're doing is it's gonna be a founder piece. Jared's gonna be in it.
Huh.
And there's also like a kind of a, what's the word when you have like a character, well, it's a pink elephant, and so the
A
the
pink
pink elephant
elephant.
essentially, yeah. So there's the elephant in the room, and when you think of something, and someone says think of a pink elephant, you'll think of a pink elephant, even if they say a different color or something like that, something
Mhm.
psychologically. So the pink elephant in the room is all these issues that you're having within your brand, and it's the thing no one talks
Hmm.
about. It's like you made $3 million last quarter, but you actually lost $500,000, and no one wants to talk about that. They just want to talk about the wins. And so this
Right.
whole piece is going to be around Jared, his story, and the elephant in the room going, but the elephant is a problem that no one really wants to address. They just want to celebrate
Hmm.
everything, but not talk about the issue. So there's,
Uh-huh.
and that I guess mascot is the word I'm looking for, is going to be used across like long term, maybe in conferences, on our, across our socials as that elephant.
Hmm.
But then we also have this piece of Lord of the Rings that's purely just for fun, but also high production value and very intentionally written for our ICP. So two pieces
Yeah.
we're working on. I'm pumped for you guys to start pushing
I
them through
love
when
it.
they're ready.
I
It's gonna
love
be
it.
fun.
That's
Yeah.
gonna be great. Is the messaging really? I mean, you said complicated, so about how basically NetSuite and others are like so complicated. Why make it so
Yeah.
complicated, et cetera, is gonna be the basic message. But how much different is that
Yeah.
from the first round of videos? I mean, have you guys really
That's a
switched it up a
great
little bit based on
question.
feedback?
Yeah, as we've gone up market and started targeting more complex brands, we were kind of doing anybody made 1 million to, 20 million was a key,
Hmm.
account. But now it's more like you got to be making at least 5 million. You got to be across these multiple channels. And that's where Luminous is really that's our sweet spot, I guess.
Yeah.
And so we're getting very specific on talking about EDI, talking about multi-channel, talking about purchase ordering, supply chain, like all that
Hmm.
back end stuff
That's
that
interesting.
really a brand starts to see issues around when they probably hit 10 million plus, and they're in Walmart, they're in Target, they're on Amazon, they're on Shopify, and they're like, we are holding all of this together with their bare hands on spreadsheets. Like, how do we, or everyone's pushing them to NetSuite. How do we kind of
Right.
get them? How we're that solution for that brand, saying you don't have to go to NetSuite, it's way too big for you, and you also don't need to be on spreadsheets, or as we call it, like taping all these point solutions together, like we can do everything in one. So that we're
Right.
going more at market, getting a bit more specific, where before we're like, oh, all of e-commerce, and now we're like, no, we for omni-channel brands,
Hmm.
the more off-market omni-channel brands. So
Makes sense. So the
yeah.
targeting is clearly going to change a little bit as you guys move up market, obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
That's
it'll be
fun. I
fun.
can't wait for the Lord of the Rings skit. That's great.
Oh,
That's
you're
really
gonna love
fun.
it. It's so good. I'm
That's
sorry I
fun.
couldn't speak to it more with the references,
You
but
need to
you'll get
watch
it
Lord
when
of
you
the
see
Rings
it.
after this. You need to refresh your memory. Watch
I
a couple of them.
actually
It's so
really
freaking long though.
do.
All of them are like 3 hours, right? I mean,
Do you
all
know what? I
three
might send you the script for you guys to read, because I'd love to see if you have any feedback.
would be great.
So
Yeah,
just
I'd
like
love to
feel
see it.
free to let me know what you think. Because as a paid marketer, maybe you have some actually like, oh, maybe this hook will be better. But yeah, I think you'll
Totally.
appreciate it. So I'll send that to you after today.
Totally.
But
Love it. Love
yeah,
it.
we're
Oh, I
pumped.
can't wait. I think it's gonna be great. That's
Thanks.
cool. Any final thoughts on just like brand marketing ads or anything like that you didn't think we didn't cover or anything like that that might be helpful for others thinking about it? Because I think most people are not in your
Yeah.
position. Most people have not done it before. Most people
Yeah.
likely are not going to be able to get budget to do certainly anything like you guys have done before. But anything that might help them kind of as they're thinking about how to drive more demand,
Yeah.
more demos, the whole bit.
I mean, just resonating what I said with earlier, just make sure you just start putting content out there and make that your
Mm.
core differentiator. And not just in terms of your product needs to be different and unique, and you have to be clear in that. But in terms of a marketer, and then as you build the brand,
Yeah.
create content, get good at it, build the muscle of putting it out there all the time, talk to
Mm.
your audience, get your feedback, optimize your website. And then, yeah, a brand marketing piece will make sense. It will accelerate your results so much quicker. And it is worth it, but don't do it just because you have a bunch of money, maybe raise some money and you want to kind of throw something into it.
Right.
Make sure you have that ecosystem, make sure you're building and putting content out there for about a year. And then, yes, pitch that idea. And I almost guarantee you that you're going to have great results. So,
Love it. Love it.
yeah,
Guaranteed. All right. Go to Alex if it doesn't
guaranteed 10 out of
happen. There's a guaranteed right there. I
10.
love guarantees.
Yeah, well, maybe
Uh,
not, maybe 8 out of 10 chance, but
yeah. All right.
it'll do well.
We'll edit that part.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thanks so much for jumping on for a little bit. Where can people find you if they want to reach out, learn more about the campaign or anything else about you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. So Alex Mospanyuk, work for
Cool.
Luminous. I doubt there's someone else with my name because my name's annoying. But yeah, so happy to chat anytime.
Good. Love it. All right. We'll chat here a little later.
Cool. Thanks. Bye.
All right. See you. All right. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of the Demand Podcast. Again, I'm Jonathan Bland, the co-founder of OmniLab. I'll also have with me Jason Steele, who's the other co-founder of OmniLab on this podcast as well. We're a demand gen agency for seed to Series B SaaS startups. If you like this episode or you're looking for some help with demand gen, please feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn over a DM, or you can go just directly to our website. That's omnilabconsulting.com. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you on the next episode where we'll be talking about all things demand gen. Until then, thanks. Bye-bye.